touched and I felt so good, you know. It was the best race I'd ever swum. She said, you know, yeah, you can just draw whatever you want. So as an 8-year-old boy, I drew an airplane throwing bombs on Gaddafi. Gaddafi was the ruler of Libya. You've got to keep pushing yourself, keep challenging yourself, keep doing your best.
You just have to be patient. Every person I met at the beginning of my career 20 years ago, where I looked at them and said, whoa, that guy or gal is super capable, so smart and dedicated, all of them, almost without exception, became extremely successful. You just have to give it a long enough time scale. It never happens in the time scale you want or they want, but it does happen. You know everything about things happening, not in the time scale that you want or you expected, but yet you're sitting here. Beautiful Olympic participation that you had with many medals that came before that. Sean, take us back to the moment you decided, I'm going to do this.
I've gone through a different journey than most people have who've reached this point. Most people haven't traveled the world, swum at tens of different clubs, been to lots of different schools, had to pick up your whole life and relocate. So it's been a very, very long and eventful journey to get to where I was. And I never really had my sights set on going to the Olympics. I was never really the best, you know. I was pretty good and I had potential, but I was never the best. And when we moved to the Netherlands a few years ago in 2017, with my parents, I really started to pick up the swim a bit better, and finally started winning medals at national championships. You know, never gold, always silver, bronze. I was in the top 5, and so I never really envisioned that I would at one point be the best in the country and then be able to represent my fatherland at the Olympics at the highest podium. It was really till 2022 when I went to my first international competition that I thought, well, you know, I could make something of myself in the swimming world. A year later, lots of ups and downs, another relocation in the Netherlands. But 1 year from the Olympics, everything seemed like it wasn't going to happen. Nothing was falling into place where it should. It felt like everything was working against me. And that's what really motivated me to push through and actually prove everyone wrong who kind of stood in my way. And at the end of the year, eventually I did make the Olympic team. I was the last person to qualify, last competition to qualify, last day to qualify, last event I could qualify. So very last minute. But yeah, you know, I made it just in time. And it's just crazy that after such a journey that I was finally able to reach where I wanted to.
It's so impressive. We're going to focus and zoom in on everything that happened before the Olympics. But first, we're going to go back in time a little bit. I have a photo of you. What do we see here?
That was my first medal at my first swimming competition in Libya, where we lived with my parents. It was my first race, and I mean, there have been so many medals since then, but that's where it all started, and that's still hanging in my room, you know, next to my medals from European championships, from national championships. It's the first medal still there. It's where it all started. As important. Exactly, yeah.
How were you as a child? Were you very active? Were you always like, did you love sports, or were you like, oh, I'm going to go train because my parents tell me so? What was it like?
Yeah, I was very active, you know. I'd come from school, I'd go to to Dutch lessons, then I'd go to football practice, and straight from there I'd go to swimming practice. So I was busy the whole day. My mum was my private chauffeur, always taking me around. But no, yeah, I only really started swimming like as a sport in Libya, because there were only two sports you could do. You could do football, or you could do swimming. I was so active, decided to do both. And, you know, as the years progressed, swimming was the one that stuck. Yeah, here we are now. You know,
you could have been a great forward as well, like built like Haaland, like for the headers and the body checks. Another world.
Yeah, I mean, my coordination wasn't always very good, so running wasn't my thing. I always played in goal, and that was a benefit, you know, being 2 meters too.
Yeah, that helps.
Yeah, but it was, wasn't for me.
What was it like at a young age to see all those countries, but also just move around a lot? Because I have a lot of friends that were expats and that like had to move around, and they see all these different countries. And I hear so many mixed things. Some people love it. They're like, yeah, I get to see so many different cultures. People are like, I hate it because I can't settle and make friends with like the group that I love so much.
Yeah, it's up to my 15th. I always lived abroad. Every 2-3 years we moved around. So it was just the way of life, you know. I didn't know anything else. It's how I grew up. So it was nice, you know. You've experienced so much. You've seen so much of the world, met so many people, had so many experiences that people who've only lived in one place, they haven't had, you know. You kind of get a jump start on life compared to others. You know, if you've grown up, you've lived in the same house from when you were born till you leave for work, you've got a much smaller vision of the world than if you've lived everywhere. So in that perspective, I feel that I've really, really benefited from it. I really noticed it when I first moved here, that the culture was really different. You know, I grew up in all Arab-speaking countries, Muslim countries, so I was used to how the culture was there, the religion, how people interacted with each other. And then you came here and it was very different. And it really took me a long time to adapt to that, just because it was so different. But, you know, it's another country to add to the list of places where I've lived. So another culture to add to my experiences. Unfortunately,
you also had to witness some moments that weren't as fun, maybe in Libya.
Exactly.
Can you tell us about that?
In 2011, there was an uprising in Libya, as there was in many other Arab nations at the time. I was 8 years old. We were living there with my mum and my father. My dad, at that point, he was off on a work trip. He was in the middle of the desert. No internet, no phone reception, nothing. And then, there was a massive disaster. We had to immediately evacuate Libya. My dad wasn't there. You know, my mum wasn't working. She was a stay-at-home mum. My dad always arranged everything through his company. So it was a bit of a shock. Like, what do we have to do? Where are we going to go? How's it all going to happen? How's my dad going to get away with us? So my mum, she packed one suitcase, all, you know, jewelry, expensive things, important birth certificates, you know, vaccination cards.
Yeah. Starter pack.
Exactly. You know, just the basics. And yeah, we had to flee with one suitcase. We fled to a sort of a guest house where many people from my dad's company were staying. We were in a house with 3 bedrooms, I think, with like 45 people. There were bombs exploding outside of the walls of the house. There was gunfire the whole night, and it was literally, we were in the middle of a war zone. You know, we had to drive around. You know, to get from our house to that house, we had to hide in the back of a minibus, you know, flat on the ground, you know, blankets over the top of us. Because, you know, if they saw us, you know, we don't know what would happen. Maybe they'd keep us hostage. So it was crazy for an 8-year-old to experience all of this. Eventually, we got evacuated with a catamaran to Malta. The catamaran wasn't seaworthy for the conditions that there were at the time. It was wind force 10, so it was a proper storm on sea. And the catamaran, it was just, a leisure catamaran to go around, show people the islands. And so it was crazy. I was lying there. We had to evacuate from the harbour because it was broken into by the locals. There were guys with guns and trying to get onto the boat with us. So we just had to push off, on the sea on the way to Malta. We thought we would die because my dad wasn't there still. He was still in the middle of the desert because he was a big manager there. So he had to get everyone out of the country first before he could leave. He was the last Dutch person in Libya at the time. And we thought we would die. My mum was holding me the whole night, the whole 10 hours that we were on the water, holding me tight against her. 'Cause, if it crashes, if something happens, if we flip, at least we'd be together, Eventually we made it. Honestly, that's the most terrifying experience of my life, but such a relief when we finally, hit the harbour. We finally got off, and that was only the beginning. We had to go 3 months. We had to live in the Netherlands with my grandparents because we didn't have a house. We didn't have anything. We had one suitcase with clothing. Eventually, we moved to Saudi Arabia, and life started as normal again. But it was a crazy few months of my life. Yeah.
How did it go for your dad? Because he was still there.
Exactly.
Was he able to evacuate successfully, or was that also a whole?
He was, because the catamaran that took us actually went back a few days later to pick up the rest of the people that were still there.
Was that the only way to leave the country, like by water?
Yeah. In the beginning of the uprising, the airports were open. You could still fly out, but they were overrun at a certain point. So the only way you could leave was by land. Well, that's dangerous, there was shooting everywhere. So it was just by sea. Basically, everyone evacuated to Malta. And he luckily came, I think, 1.5 weeks after us. He came back with the last few members from his company who were still there, a few employees. And it was such a relief because we knew what we went through to get there. So it was scary that he had to go through it as well. But eventually he made it back to us. And
at such a young age, how do you process this? Like, is it even like, can you process that, or does it just stick with you forever?
I mean, I was of an age where I understood everything. I experienced everything, and I remember everything, like it was yesterday. I remember the color of the blanket that we were wrapped around in the boat, and because I went through it with my mum, it wasn't as bad.
Yeah.
When you've got your mum with you, everything will be all right. So that wasn't it wasn't that bad. But every now and then, I still had nightmares when I was small, and maybe I've got some hidden traumas in the back of my mind, which I haven't been able to process from them. But maybe it was what built me as a person. It's where my character's based off of, overcoming such terrifying moments and processing that stress and panic. And it was. I still remember when we got to school in Groningen in the north with my grandparents.
At what age?
8. Just after we got back to the Netherlands from Malta. At school, we had to draw our home. The teacher gave us a task. She said, "Okay, now draw your house." I put my hand up and I said, "What am I supposed to draw? I didn't have a house. I didn't have a home, we lived with my grandparents, but that wasn't my home. We rented an apartment. That wasn't my home. That wasn't my house. It was just a place where we were staying.
It was temporary."
Exactly. She said, she didn't know what to say. She didn't know what to tell me. You know, it's not something that teachers trained to handle. So it was funny. She said, you know, yeah, you can just draw whatever you want. So as an 8-year-old boy, I drew an airplane throwing bombs on Gaddafi. Gaddafi was the ruler of Libya. So an 8-year-old drawing those sort of pictures, it's so strange. It's crazy. So the teacher, she spoke to my mother at the end of the day when she came to pick me up. She was like, you know, this is what he was drawing. Is he all right? How's he processing this? Mom was like, yeah, you know, at home I was also drawing pictures of Gaddafi. It was, yeah, that was just my way to process things.
Yeah.
Drawing and being creative, you know, drawing caricatures of Gaddafi with a massive head, or yeah, it's just how you dealt with it as a child, or how I dealt with it as a child. So it was unique.
Did Holland feel like a safe place for you at that when coming back, or were you still like having those thoughts? Oh, like anything can happen here.
No, it was safe. You know, it was my association with Holland was always a family. You know, you go there on vacation.
Okay, good.
So coming there, it was like, oh yeah, it's all over now. You know, all our stuff which is still in Libya, maybe it'll come here, maybe it'll go to our next vacation, maybe it won't, maybe I'll never see any of my things again. You know, I'll have to start again, but at least, you know, the whole family's safe and we're all here together. So whatever comes, and we'll deal with it as it comes.
And what country did you guys go after? Because like the war continued.
Yep. We moved to Saudi Arabia later in 2011, in June, I believe. And yeah, life started from zero there. After, I believe it was a few months or a year living in Saudi Arabia, we received all of our stuff from Libya. Obviously not the expensive stuff, the TVs, the electronics, that was all stolen. But, you know, the sentimental stuff like my toys and my Lego and pictures and all of that came. So that was truly like the end, the completion, you know, the book was closed.
Yeah. The
whole experience and stress and just the whole drama from the whole evacuation and being a refugee, that was over. And it's crazy when you think about it. When I think back to it now, I was actually a refugee. You know, I didn't have a home. We didn't have any stuff. We just left with a suitcase. You see it on TV sometimes now. Refugees escaping from Syria, from lots of different countries in the Middle East. You also see them with one suitcase. We were basically the same. Luckily, we had family. We had somewhere to go. But it's still a very similar experience to what they had.
Yeah.
So thinking about it from being a refugee to going to the Olympics, it's a crazy journey.
You mentioned the Olympics.
Yeah.
At what point did swimming come into your mind? Like at what point did that start gaining traction, and were you like, oh, this might actually be something that I want to pursue and do for the rest of the coming years or whatnot? Because like as you said, like it wasn't like, oh, I'm going to be Olympic gold champion, I'm going to do everything for that. Like you were still very serious at school, and now you're also still doing a study at TU Delft, which is not, we can't forget to mention that. At what point you're like, okay, I'm actually going to do this seriously right now?
Swimming was always a hobby for me. It was never a career choice or something that I was thinking to do for the rest of my life. My mum always put the focus on studies. You know, studies is how you're going to have a future, how you're going to be able to maintain a family. So that's always my number one focus. Swimming was just for fun. You know, I did it to the side. When we moved to the Netherlands, I had an amazing coach, Dr. Shaila Dormel. He was a teacher at the school that I went to as well. He brought me from ranking 30th in the country to ranking 2nd or 3rd within 3 or 4 months. It was crazy. No one had seen it before. I was dropping time on all my distances.
What was the secret in his trainings or his approach?
He was so knowledgeable. He had so much knowledge of technique, of physiology, of how the human body works, because he'd done a PhD in it. So he, just his technique and focus on all of that really helped me. And I trained with him for a few years. And then in 2022, when I went to my first European Championships, the head coach of national team asked me to join him in Amsterdam at the High Performance Center to train there full time. And I went, my girlfriend and I, Tessa, we got invited at the same time, so we went there together. And it was supposed to be a journey of 2 years. So 22, 23, 23, 24 towards the Paris Olympics.
That was the goal already. It was set back then. They said like, this is what we're working towards right now.
Yeah,
okay.
It was, or that was the goal that they set. You know,
okay.
The head coach, he said, "This is the path we're going to follow, and this is how we're going to try to get you to the Olympics. You know, nothing's for certain. You never know what's going to happen, but that was our goal." So we spent a year in Amsterdam. I basically put my studies on hold because we were living in Amsterdam together with Tessa. We were gone for half of the year on training camps, competitions. So I just couldn't do a study next to it, unfortunately. And then after a year being in Amsterdam, I'd won medals at European Championships under 23. We came back from summer vacation, and there was a meeting with the head coach, and he said, "Yeah, guys, we're kicking you out. You've got to leave. We don't have a space for you here anymore. I'm only continuing with 4 swimmers. The other 4 who are on the team, 4 or 5 who are on the team, we had to leave." This was 8 months before the Olympics, and we were there. We were like, what are we supposed to do now? You know, we'd been promised a 2-year plan. We'd picked up our whole lives. We'd moved there. We'd had to adapt to a new training regime, new everything, new environment. And suddenly he said, "Yeah, you've got to go." He said, "You can go train with a junior coach." Nothing against him. He wasn't very good. So we couldn't go to the junior coach. So suddenly, a week before the season, the Olympic season started, we had to find a new coach, a new team, a new place to train. It was chaos. Eventually, Tessa went back to her old club in Rotterdam. I went back to my old club in Zoetermeer. So we went to live back with our parents. You know, we'd lived a year together. We got used to being by ourselves, you know, maintaining ourselves, and now we'd go back to live with our parents. That was also crazy. But yeah, so Tessa started training back with her old club, so did I. And a few months later, we both qualified for the European Championships in Romania.
Before you go on, did the qualification for the Olympics, did you have to be in that high performance team or the Dutch team to qualify for the Olympics? Or
no?
How does it work to qualify for swimming? Because it's quite specific, right?
Yeah. For swimming, it's quite simple. You don't have to train a certain place. You don't have to be in a certain team. If you swim a qualification time, which is set by the Olympic Federation, if you swim that time on a competition where it's allowed, then in theory, you're allowed to go. There are only 2 people per country allowed to qualify per distance. And so that's how it is. It's very simple. You have to be in the top 2 of your country who swim under the time on a competition where it's allowed. If you do that, you can go. So back to the European Championships.
Yes.
Yeah. Tessa had a very difficult year in Amsterdam. She swam times that she was so slow. It was very difficult to see for me, for her as well. But her determination, her grit, her mental power to keep going. She was swimming times that she swam when she was 12 or 13 years old, while she was 20. She'd swum at world championships, European championships. She won medals at these major international competitions. And now she was barely making finals at nationals on the same distances. It was very difficult to see, but it was a great motivation for me. She pushed through all of that. And then at the European Championships, a few months later, she won gold. So she's just the best in Europe. And to see her achieve that after such a difficult year really helped me later on in the year. Because that was at the end of 2023. And when she won gold, that was truly a moment where I thought, she might make the Olympics. And so maybe will I. Maybe I will as well.
Did at some point, did you think at some point, this is not possible anymore at all?
Well, yeah, when we were kicked out of the national team.
Okay.
It was a year to go. I had to possibly adapt to another new training situation. And usually that takes a year to get used to a new way to train, new approach. So basically there, I was like, yeah, well, that's my Olympic dream gone.
Yeah.
I'm not going to make Paris anymore. And I think Tessa had the same thing. But after she really achieved high at the European Championships, I'd also swum pretty good there. I'd made 2 semifinals. I was 9th of Europe. So I was like, we might make this. So from then on, January 2024, 6 months before the Olympics was supposed to be, we committed everything to making it, training as much as we could, as hard as we could, doing everything we could to make it. And so from then on, the Olympics really became a realistic dream for me, or more a goal, which I would work towards, actually. Yeah.
Were the people that were in the four that stayed in the national team, were they assured of their spots? Or
They
was it
were.
also okay?
Yeah. They already had a Olympic qualifying time.
Uh-huh.
So that was one of the reasons that they gave us that we had to leave. They said, you don't have a qualifying time yet, so you can't stay. They did stay though. Eventually 2 out of the 4, they did win medals. The other 2 didn't. But so yeah, there's no hard feelings. If that was the protocol they had, if that's what they wanted, what they expected from their team, that's how it was. We just had to deal with it. We didn't have a time, so
yeah.
I mean, it wasn't ideal, but we make do. And as I did in Libya, you've got to overcome hardships. You've got to push through. You've got to have that grit, that determination, that mindset to still be able to overcome downfall, overcome setbacks. And that's something that swimming's really taught me, overcoming those difficulties, times of hardship. Later in the year, in 2024, before I even qualified, there were many, many more setbacks and many even more hardships where I really thought, it's done. My Olympic dream's over. I'm just going to stop swimming now because it's finished. I failed. But eventually it all worked out.
Take us back to the race that gave you that pass to go to the Olympics.
That was in June at the national championships.
It's like just happened.
Exactly.
So fresh.
Yeah. It's I'll take you back first to April 2024. To qualify for the Olympics, you had to swim or an individual qualifying time, or for a relay, you had to be the fastest in the country in April. It's a bit of a weird system because if you had the fastest individual time in April, but no official qualifying time, and someone in June qualified with a official qualifying time, the person who qualified for the relay would still be able to go to the Olympics, even though he was slower. So that's where my goals were set on, to be the fastest Dutchman in April. I'd had the fastest season time. I'd been consistently the fastest in the country the whole year long till we got to April. 2 or 3 days before the competition started, I got very sick. I got a lung infection. And I'd slept the week of the qualification tournament. I'd slept in 4 nights, about 9 hours. It was terrible. I was not in form and I just couldn't perform. I was absolutely dead. And that was so difficult because there was so much work and effort and time put into it. And I was on level to qualify, to perform at my best. And then something that was out of my control just took it all away from me. So that was very difficult. Another boy who qualified, another man qualified for the relay place. So that was difficult. Tessa did qualify in April though. So that made it even more difficult on me because we were supposed to go together. This was supposed to be our dream, our journey together. And then suddenly I'd failed so miserably and she hadn't. So for a few days, a few weeks after the competition, I really struggled mentally to motivate myself again because the individual qualifying time, it was very quick. It was the 3rd time ever swum in the country.
Okay.
And to swim that time, I would have to be the quickest ever in the country at my age. I just turned 22. No one in the country had ever swum that time at the age of 22 or younger. So I thought, this is impossible. It's never going to happen. So I kind of gave up. Tessa really pushed me there. She motivated me. She believed in me, my coaches, my parents, everyone. They kept pushing me. They kept saying, you can do this. If anyone in the country can do it, it's you. You've got so much talent, so much potential, so much drive. Just really put all the effort into it. And then, if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen, but at least you've put your everything into it. So I did. And there was a qualification tournament in Monaco at the end of May.
How did that training period before you go there, that training period before then, what did that look like? Like, were you like a different person or did you do like something different?
Tessa, was I a different person after Eindhoven? Yeah, it was...
she said, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it was crazy. I was a monster, I'd never trained so hard and I was swimming times in the training I'd never done before. And it was such drive. And then in 2 weeks before the final qualification moment, there's a qualification tournament in Monaco. I went to swim there and I swam bad. I swam really bad. I swam even slower than I did in Eindhoven in April. Even though now I was supposed to be in top form, I was supposed to be quicker than I ever was. That was also so difficult. 2 weeks before it was finally supposed to happen, before I'd have to have the time in the pocket, I was nowhere. And then again, I thought, I might as well give up now. Everyone, no, just keep pushing. It's 2 weeks left and, you never know what might happen. Maybe you weren't feeling great here, blah, 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 traveling. And it's like, okay, fine. So we got to Eindhoven or to Amersfoort for national championships. The first day was a sort of warm-up day for me. I saw my personal record, become national champion on the 200 freestyle, a distance I never do. I do it once per year at nationals.
Side quest.
Yeah, exactly. So I'd won that. So I was, I'm in form. This is all good. I'd had a day off afterwards. And then on day 3 of the championships at the 100 meters butterfly, it was my B distance, my second distance. In the morning, I swam 52.00, which was 0.3 seconds above the Olympic qualifying time.
Okay.
So I thought, yes, this is it. This evening, I'm well rested. I'll take a bit more caffeine. I'll be more pumped up, and I'll make it this evening. 5 meters from the end of the race, I hit the lane rope, lost all my momentum, swam 52.00 again. That was so difficult. because I thought, shit, sorry.
You can curse as much as you want.
Thought, shit, yeah, I messed up. I hit the lane rope. Why did I do that?
Never happens in training.
No, never happens in training, never happens in a race. Why does it happen now? If I wouldn't have done that, I probably would have made it. I would have made the time. Now, I've gone to mess it all up. And in the evening, I went to bed very miserable, very down. In Dutch say, ik ging bij de pakken neerzitten. I'd given up all hope because 100 freestyle the next day, which was supposed to be my main distance, which I'd missed my chance on in April. That wasn't going very well. I'd seen it in Monaco. So I thought, it's game over. So the next morning I woke up, I did my warm up. I went through the motions, but I wasn't really set on making it. I thought, well, fine, whatever. I'll just go to Paris as a spectator. I'll watch Tessa there and that's it. But no, so I went into the race. There was no pressure on me anymore from myself, no stress. And then I'd swum the time. I'd swum a crazy time, the quickest time ever swum in the country at that age, third time ever, and it was such a relief. Everyone asked me afterwards, yeah, were you happy? No, I wasn't happy per se. I was just relieved, and I was crying so much after the race. There weren't tears of joy, there weren't tears of sadness, or they were just tears from so many months of stress and pressure and built up anxiety, and it just all disappeared suddenly. So in 48 seconds, my whole life changed. As the last person to qualify on the Dutch team, the first person to qualify for the Olympics in the distance since London. So it was, it was such a relief.
What was the feeling like? Because of course, it's just 48 seconds. I mean, you're faster than like a regular person that swims. So it probably goes very fast for you, even faster than regularly. So you come out of the water and you turn your body like sideways and you look on the screen and you see the time.
Yeah. It's
how does that feel?
Yeah, I finished the race, and in most pools, the scoreboard is on the other side of the pool to where you start. But in Amersfoort, it's above the blocks. Okay. So it's quite difficult to see immediately. But I touched and I felt so good, It was the best race I'd ever swum. I looked up at the board, and because I was like 10 meters ahead of the second person in my race.
Oh, wow.
I looked up and it was only my time on the board still, and it was 48:14.
And you have time to look at the time, not know what's showing up.
Exactly. So it was, I saw instantly 48:14. The qualifying time was 48:34. The whole swimming pool erupted. It was so loud, so much joy. And it was, I still get goosebumps now thinking about it. It's such a euphoric feeling. And one of my teammates, he was swimming in the same race. He sprinted over the lane ropes. He was hanging on me, cuddling me. And it was just unbelievable, an unbelievable feeling that it finally happened. I was finally able to prove my worth, even after all of these setbacks. I was finally able to overcome it all and show all the people who really didn't believe in me or who got in my way that, I can do it. I can do it without you. I can do it without the support of the whole national team, the whole infrastructure. I can do it all without you. Just me, my coaches, my family, my friends. We can do it without all of you guys.
That's crazy. I don't know how many stories like of similar kind there is, but it's the first one I hear. We had a hockey player that won gold on the podcast like 2 days ago, and he also told a story. And it's funny how everyone has their own story. Yeah. Like for him, it was very different. Like he, from the age of 6, he's like, I'm going to win gold. And I'm only going to win gold. That's the only thing I'm going to do. And for the rest of his life, he trained for that. Yeah. And then here you have a completely different story, but in its own way, it's so unique because like the last race and like everything, it's so special. And like there's so many lessons to be learned in that for people that run a business or people that want to make for a certain study, or you want to become a high level doctor or whatever you want to do. Like just keep pushing, like that. Yeah. That's what it comes down to, right? If you at that last race were like, "Ik stop ermee. I'm done with this," and as they say in Dutch, like, but you didn't.
Yeah.
And you went that extra mile and you made it happen.
Yeah.
And you proved everyone wrong.
Exactly.
Everyone that didn't believe in you. How did that feel? Like, did you have like a certain like, oh, look at me now, or was it like you were just happy? Because personally, I'd be like, guys, look, like I did it.
Yeah. In the beginning, I was just happy.
Okay.
You know, it was not even happy, just such a relief that it was finally over. You know, I'd finally made it. And after a while, it felt like a bit of a fuck you to the federation because and to the Olympic Federation. We'd had no support the whole year. You know, I'd my whole savings, all of my savings were gone, invested into racing, because we'd had to go to training camps, we had to go to competitions internationally. I think we spent per person with Tessa like 20,000 euros to travel the world, finance ourselves.
No sponsors, no one interested in, or maybe here and there, like some small, but it wasn't like deal breaking.
Nothing financial.
Wow.
So it was very difficult for us because, you know, the federation had got like 400,000 euros to spend on training camps and this and that, and we got nothing, not 1 cent. They didn't even want to let us use their physiotherapists at competitions, you know. So finally, when we did make it, it really felt like, yeah, you know, we don't need you guys. You know, it's nice if they would have helped.
Yeah.
But even without you, we can make it. Even now, you know, no support from the federation or the Olympic Federation. So
that's crazy, though, right?
Yeah, you'd think so. You know, the best 100 freestyler, the King's Distance, they call it.
Yeah.
In the country, nothing. So yeah, which is why I'm still studying now. You know, I've got to be able to finance myself. It's very difficult to combine it now because I want to finish my degree in mechanical engineering this year.
It's also not the least of degrees for people that like are from outside of the country. Studies at TU Delft.
Yeah.
It's not the easiest university in Holland. It might actually be one of the most technical universities.
Okay.
It's impressive.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, even before the Olympics, you know, I'd qualified in Amersfoort. 2 days later, I had exams. So I'd qualified. I went home that evening, opened my book, started studying again. You know, I did. Yeah. If I think back to it, I didn't really have a moment to enjoy the experience, to really embrace the whole journey that I had, because it kind of felt open-ended because I had to move on to the next thing immediately. So, you know, I had exams. I did those exams. The end of the year was finished. I'd still have to do a few resits for exams that I missed because of the competition. So in between, you know, training really hard because it was summer vacation already. So Tess and I, we were training together with our coaches. Our pool was closed where we trained, so we had to go to another pool. It was very chaotic. And then there was a training camp before the Olympics with the whole swimming team. And it was the week I still had my resit exams then. So, yeah, I was doing my exams. And on the 18th of July, I had my last exam. Finished at 12 o'clock. At 2 o'clock, we were expected in Eindhoven for the training camp. So I'd packed all my bags already and I went straight there from my exam to the training camp. We were there for 2 days and then straight to Paris. There was no downtime. There was no time to really take it all in. And there was no besef momentje, realization moment for what I achieved and the whole journey that we'd been through. So it's a bit sad for me thinking back on it. That I never really had that moment to enjoy it. But but I guess, I'll just have to go for it again in Los Angeles in 4 years, and then
Yeah. But I think
take it all in then.
I think just like you found strength in all the hardships and adversity you had to face
For sure.
for from Libya to the national team kicking you out, to to all the things you had to overcome.
Yep.
Like you will find strength in this again. And I think like if you've been to the Olympics once, like sure, like you went, but now you're like, okay, now I'm gonna go and now I'm gonna like get a medal, and
Exactly.
now I'm gonna enjoy the moments because I'll have time and I'll have my degree and everything will be sorted, and I'll have the best training camp and I'll provide for my own nutrition and whatnot because I'll already be there.
Yeah.
Like it's cool to have something to work towards, and like having a goal of, like you know it like no one else, like having that goal, having something set in stone, like this one I'm gonna do, like it helps because you're gonna work towards it.
Yeah.
And if you know like you want a certain time, and that's cool with swimming, like it's not subjective, like it's everything but subjective, like it's time,
black on white.
And like with team sports, of course we can't like say that it's not, like it's just different, but you don't have your team supporting you, or it's not dependent on the other team having a bad day, like like you have those times that you have to like there are other people in the pool, but you're not even really racing against them. That's what I'm realizing right now.
Yeah.
Like you're racing against the clock, against yourself.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's funny because if there are other people racing you, a lot of the time you don't swim quicker. You often see it at big tournaments. The heats go quick, so the series, the semifinals go quick, and then in the final, where you're really racing each other, the times aren't very quick because you're more busy with beating the person in the lane next to you than swimming quick and swimming your own race. So in swimming, it's really just a battle against yourself. And you don't have a team to rely on, as you said. You don't have, even if you're feeling 95%, you can't fall back on your team and hope that your teammate, if you miss a pass in football, that your team will pick it up.
Yeah, you still have the midfield and you have defense, then you have the goalkeeper.
Exactly.
And then you have the luck, maybe there's a post or like a crossbar.
Exactly. But in swimming, if you mess up your start, it's done. Your whole race is finished. If you miss the wall, if one stroke, if you choke on water, it's done. So that's what I realized, that there's a lot of pressure which you put on yourself, and really learning to deal with that pressure, because it wasn't even external pressure from family or coaches. They said, you make it, you make it, you don't make it, you don't make it. We're not going to be angry at you or anything, or disappointed in you. But the pressure I put on myself, that I had to do everything right and that it was all in my control, that was very overwhelming at certain points. And then at the end, when I thought, whatever, I do what I do. And at the end of the day, what happens, happens. What doesn't happen. That's when I really thrived and I performed to my best. And I think that's something that a lot of people can learn from, that the pressure, a lot of the time, the pressure that you feel, it's internal pressure. It's not from other sources, not from people around you. It's you yourself and what you expect of yourself.
I think it's a quote from Seneca, with like Stoicism. If you know it, like people suffer more in their mind than in reality. Yeah, it's exactly what you're saying.
For sure. Yeah, it's you've done all the work. If you're doing a sport, if you're preparing for a business pitch, you've done all the work already beforehand. So what happens in the moment, it's supposed to happen. You can't change anything at the last second. You can't change the outcome. Basically, you've done all the work. So basically, you reap what you sow. If you put the effort in, then you'll get back from it. If you don't put the effort in, then you can't expect to perform, albeit in a business, albeit in a sport. That's something really valuable, which I've learned, and I learned it in the last 12 months, and but I think it's something that I'll take with me for the rest of my life.
It's so beautiful that at a young age you get to experience all these hardships as well. I think like in the moment it feels like suffering, but I think the more you get older, you'll realize like, oh, these are all blessings in disguise.
Exactly.
Because they will contribute to whatever you want to do. If that's becoming an engineer or entrepreneur, or you want to continue with your swimming career, like all those things you faced, even way back from when you were 9 or when you were younger, like
Yeah.
they will all make the difference between someone that haven't had all the experience and haven't had all those setbacks to comparison to you who had to like deal with all the shit. Like it's
it's I think it's very important to not get complacent in life, or comfortable where you are for too long. That you've got to keep pushing yourself, keep challenging yourself, keep doing your best, because that's only then can you really feel complete and as if you've really achieved something. Because say I qualified last year already for the Olympics, and I didn't swim so well in Paris because I'd been complacent the whole year. That would have felt so bad. That would have been so disappointing and so much anger. Whereas now, because I put in all of the work, I knew whatever happens in Paris happens. Even I didn't swim the best race of my life in Paris, but I knew this is what's supposed to be because I put in all the work. And I couldn't change anything about it. Whereas if you look back on it with hindsight and you think, oh, maybe I could have done this, maybe I could have done that. That's terrible.
Yeah.
That's so much worse to have that feeling afterwards than the feeling of struggle beforehand, I think.
Yeah. Suffering training and you'll be able to reap the rewards when you're doing the competitions and all the other beautiful things you want to do with that. I want to zoom in on like Paris and what it's like to be in the Olympic Village. But before that, I want to go back to school.
Yeah.
I think there are many people that are still studying and that are like doing, even if you're not studying and doing a side hustle like on the side, and they're trying to combine it with something else, probably not Olympic endeavors because that doesn't happen all too often. What is something you've learned? Because like, is it possible to combine the two, or do you have to like double down on one thing? Because you're not doing an easy study. It's not like you can do it on the side and it's like, oh, I'll just go to the exam and like you really have to study for it. Like you said, like you're done with a final and then like open the book again. Like how?
I think it really depends on what sort of study you're doing. From my experience in Delft, some of my teammates who did more practical studies like industrial design or architecture, they had their life was a lot easier because they had more projects, more coursework, and the submissions of those courseworks and projects could be delayed. Whereas in mechanical engineering, we've got mostly exams. So that was very difficult for me to combine. I think it was basically impossible for me, and Delft didn't really help. They helped a little bit, but nowhere near what I would have expected or would have hoped for. I even got told once, you choose to swim, so you have to sort it out yourself. When I asked if I could do an exam in another moment, I said, it's your choice, so you deal with the consequences. Since then, I really thought, what a terrible way to approach it, Yeah.
But then when you all get the medal, there will be a beautiful post on social media.
Exactly.
Our Delft student, the best. We're so proud of him.
Yeah.
He represented Delft for us.
Of course, that's how it was. One of our Delft students qualified for the Olympics. I thought, well,
thanks to you guys.
Yeah, well, so but that was difficult, and I've taken a bit longer to finish my degree than I maybe would have hoped beforehand. But now I've doubled down. I put swimming to the side a bit, like many Olympians do right after the Olympics. Take a step back, focus on other things in life, and then starting January, maybe February or so, we'll pick it up again. And so combining the swimming and the studies was very difficult. I really had to work on my time management, making very good priorities, and it's taught me a lot. Something that I will also be able to use, in my business life later. Just how to handle the time management, the stress of having to juggle so many things. I know at one point I was doing 90-hour weeks, swimming 40 hours. I was studying 40 hours, and then I worked a bit in the Albert Heijn at the bakery for 10 hours a week to make a bit of money. So it was very exhausting, but it just had to be done. And push through it, and yeah, I mean, it was worth it. It wasn't very fun then, but yeah.
In Holland, they often say that your student time is your most beautiful time of your life. Is that the way you experienced it? Rhetorical question.
I started studying in Corona. So I spent 2 years sitting at home looking at a laptop screen. Then I spent 1 year in Amsterdam, where I didn't go to Delft. I spent 1 year focusing everything for the Olympics, where I didn't go to Delft. This is my 5th year now, hopefully my final year. And this is the first time that I've experienced student life. You know, now I'm finally a student. I go to lectures. I see people on campus, you know. I get a coffee at the coffee shop on campus for the first time. And it's such a strange experience, you know. I don't know very many people in Delft. I'm doing my minor now, and I don't know anyone.
What are you doing in your minor in?
Technology-based entrepreneurship.
Oh, nice. It's within Delft?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So I don't know anyone there, and it's a very strange feeling, because people say, yeah, where are you going to eat for lunch? Like, I've got no idea. I don't even know what there is in Delft to eat.
There's a good chicken spot at Pils.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's great. I wonder every break.
I'll have to check it out.
I'll send you the address after.
All right, cool. Yeah, so it's a very strange experience, but yeah, student life, I don't know what it is to have a student life. You know, never been to a party, never been to a borrel. Yeah, it's very strange. So,
do you feel like you're missing out though, or do you see that you're doing this for, like, you have different ambitions? I'm missing out, but I'm not envious of the people who do get to do it. It's just something that I've not experienced, that I probably won't experience in my student life. But I can say I've been to the Olympics, you know. There are so many more people who are students than there are Olympians. So what I've done, I feel, is more valuable and more beneficial to me in my life as a person, in my future, than going to parties, than getting a beer with friends after an exam. Yeah.
You know, it would have been nice to, but you know, it's not the end of the world. I've done other things with my life, other priorities. So, you know, it is what it is. And I'm not bitter, I'm not sad, I'm not annoyed about it. It's I'm content with how it is.
It's a beautiful way to put it. I can, you know, it was funny, like I can strongly relate to a lot of things you say, especially with school. That's why I'm so interested. I also studied in Delft. I did architecture, one of the easier studies, because we had projects. And at the time I was still doing taekwondo at a high level. So I also had the same status as you. It was top sport, but it wasn't like nowhere near the Olympics. But I was in Holland, I was doing very well. And because architecture was like more on project based, like I would just like, they would move around the deadline. Sometimes I had to hand in something earlier, or something I had a presentation like a bit later, and they would always find a way to like make it work.
Yeah.
Don't want to make you jealous right now, but that's the way it went.
Sounds very nice.
And at some point I started like really, like I wanted to really grow my business. Then at that point, like my top sport status was not there anymore. But I had such a strong passion for creating. Like we, at YBI Media, which is the company that also makes the podcast, we do video productions, and we do photo shoots, and we do content strategies for different companies. We worked with the Formula One, like was like at Zandvoort a couple months ago.
Awesome.
And that was like the goal that I had always back then. And back then I was still doing like small shoots, and just like you, like I would finish school at like 3, and then I had a shoot at 4, and I had a meeting at 5, and then I would go to a festival to film until like 1 a.m. And then next day I had an exam at 9.
Yeah.
So I can like really, I do all the things that you say, and it wasn't with the same goal, but you have like that ambition of you want something.
Exactly.
And you're going to have to put some things aside. You're going to have to sacrifice some things to make it happen.
Yeah.
And it's so beautiful that there are so many parallels between like your Olympic journey and at least the way I experienced it with trying to like grow the business whilst balancing school and also trying to get good grades for architecture, because I didn't want to like put it on the side. Like I really wanted to pass and like learn stuff. It's cool to see.
Yeah. No, I for sure think that there are lots of parallels between a business or really a company or work and top sport. You might not think it, they're completely different. But the discipline, the time management, stress management, performing under pressure, all of these things, they've got the same underlying tone, basically. You can relate one to the other and the other way around. And I think we can learn a lot from each other. From a business can learn from top sporters can learn from how businesses run. And that's what I'm learning also as well in my minor, the entrepreneurship minor, that you've got to really have that grit and determination if you want to start a business. It's not going to be easy. You're going to have so many setbacks, but to be able to overcome them, that's really important. And learning to overcome them is maybe something that isn't taught enough. It's overlooked maybe as something that a person will just have to deal with themselves, or work out how to deal with it later in life. But I think that it would be very useful for students also to learn how to deal with setbacks and the pressure and because we don't get any of that. We just get studies, and then here's the theory, and then just go do it. But in practice, it's not like that. There's so much more emotion and just a more mental, emotional side behind it, which you don't see, which you don't learn how to process.
I think just like an easy call out for Delft is like, if they want to do this, like have people speak that have experienced this. Like people with like businesses or people that like went to the Olympics, like, that they have a story, like you don't just end up there. So 100%. I do believe that in order to really learn it, you have to go through it, and you have to experience the setbacks, and you can only do that by like getting in uncomfortable situations.
Exactly.
And just like you jumping in the pool and like, I have to make 48. If it doesn't happen, I'm gone. Like that is the best way, but like that's not for everyone. But just having people on and just listen to people that have had those experiences,
exactly.
like you'll be able to like feel what it's like. You can like step in their shoes and see like the way that they saw it. That would have been so valuable, instead of having the Zoom lectures where they say, oh, mental health this, and this is the part of your brain that will be activated when, of course, it's nice, the theory, but like, so give us some real stuff now.
Exactly. So that you hear that other people go through it as well, that you're not alone, that there are ways to deal with it, handle it, and overcome it. And, even if you don't directly take something from, say, if I would give a presentation, even if they don't directly take anything from my presentation, that they know that there are people who can help with it, who have been through it, and that there are ways to deal with it. Not that you think, oh shit, what do I have to do now? And, nobody knows how I feel, because a lot of the time that's not true. But you just have to be sort of enlightened that a lot of people deal with similar issues, but not everyone shows it.
I think what's beautiful also in your situation is your girlfriend, like you saw her having to go through all this adversity.
Exactly.
And at some point, like you're like, oh, like she actually did it.
Yeah.
So it's possible.
Yeah.
And I think that's a mindset change that's so important, like seeing something being possible. A lot of things like can be so far and like, it's like, oh, that will never happen. But when you see people around you, like in your same study or from your same age group or from the same city, like things become tastbaar, as they say in Dutch.
Yeah.
Like you can feel it, you can touch it.
Exactly.
It's possible. That helps.
Yeah.
I think that's a like great way to inspire people and like do something for other people. Just like being your best version of yourself, of course, like and showing that.
For sure.
That's great.
Yeah. It gives people the realization that dreams can become a reality.
Yeah.
That dreams don't have to stay dreams. That you can often achieve everything that you want in life. might be difficult, might be, it'll be tough. It won't always be fun, but you can, if you work for it, if you invest, if you do your best. And I think that's, some people might be scared because they think maybe I won't be able to deal with it. But at the end of the day, most of the time, it always ends up well.
When you're scared, it's exactly when you need to jump. Like, I don't know from where that is, but that quote's in my mind. Yeah, it's so true. See, so then like you get the qualification, you have that trainings week, and you end up going to the Olympics. You get to the Olympic Village. What is that like? Give me your cup, I'll your refill.
It's awesome. The Olympic Village, it's crazy. As it says in the name, it's a village. It's huge. I think at one point when all the athletes were there were about 12,000 athletes, coaches, supporting staff, volunteers in the village at the same time. It's basically just a small town there. And there are so many people and so many different cultures, and it's a little bit overwhelming when you first walk there, because these buildings are all basically 10, 15 stories high, and they're completely decorated in flags from countries, and you hear singing from the oceanic countries, and then you look to the other side, and then you hear the call for prayer from Saudi Arabia's building, and then it's just so many. It's just a mixing pot of the whole world. It's basically just a tiny little world there. There are also, I believe, 190 countries which participate in the Olympics or something. So it's basically everyone there who you can think of. So it's honestly a very beautiful thing to see. Every time, every Olympics, it's also different, because they're different places. The buildings are different, the infrastructure is different, how it's organized is different. So it's never the same. Every time you go to the Olympics, I think it'll be like you're there for the first time. And I think that's really beautiful, because even though you've experienced it before, you haven't actually experienced it. So
what was it like to swim there? Because of course you're used to you've done pools like around Europe, maybe even around the world in your case.
Yeah.
What was it like to swim in Paris?
Paris was the most beautiful pool I've ever seen. It was huge. There was, it was in a massive concert hall, La Défense Arena in Paris. Taylor Swift performed there, I think, a month before we were swimming there. So they built a swimming pool.
I saw that video
in the arena.
I saw that. That was incredible. I thought it was fake. I was like, there's no way they're like,
no, for real.
They out a pool and
just on the floor they build a structure, and then suddenly there's a pool there. So there were 25,000 people in the stands, and the pool was gorgeous. It wasn't the greatest pool they'd ever built. It was very shallow. So that's why a lot of the times that was swum there weren't as quick as a lot of people would have hoped.
Does that make a difference, the shallowness of the water?
It does, yeah. Because especially for larger people like me who do freestyle, when I dive in, I dive at around 1.80 meters, and the pool was only about 2 meters deep.
Ooh.
Which means I'm really close to the bottom. And of course, you do kicks underwater as well. And if you've only got about 20 centimeters of water below you, you can't really kick a lot of water away. So you're much slower. And it was also a bit of a wave pool, because it was also a strange shape at the side. So when you were swimming towards the wall, you already felt the water coming back towards you. So you were fighting your own wave, which is very strange. Which is also why they only swam in 8 instead of 10 lanes. So the pool was 10 lanes, but there were always 2 lanes free, because it was it just wasn't built right or something.
Yeah, it was a mistake, because like the whole I'm half French, so my mom was always like, "Oh, Paris will never happen. Like it will never be done in time." At some point, they wanted to like swim in the Seine, which is also crazy.
Yeah.
Like, and like my mom was always like being very up to date with like the news in Paris because it's her city and she's like super into it.
From the rumors we heard, it was that the pool couldn't be any deeper because there just wasn't enough space.
Okay.
Because, the ground level of where we were walking was actually 2 meters above the ground. So if they would have made it any higher, then it would have started going into the stands or something. So it just wasn't feasible to make it any deeper. But you do think, it's the Olympics. It's the biggest sporting event in the world.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be peak athlete performances there, that they would build a pool that's deep enough.
They should have canceled the Taylor Swift concert, started building it earlier. Everything would have been solved.
Yeah. But I don't think the Swifties would have liked that very much. But so it was. But everyone had to deal with it.
Yeah.
So that's another thing you have to overcome.
Of course.
You've got to adapt to the environment where you're in. So a few days before the race, we got there, we thought, wow, it's amazing. We dived in, and then you're suddenly on the bottom because you expect it to be 3 meters, but it's only 2 meters. So you've got to learn to swim in that sort of pool. There are a few of our teammates who dived into the pool on the first day, and they, because there's lots of cameras and screens on the bottom of the pool as well for the television broadcast, they dived in and they fell onto those screens. So, they've got cuts on their eyes and on their face and on their chest, and it's just all stuff you have to deal with. Everyone's in the same situation, same circumstances.
It's like the Hunger Games. Like you get there and like you have to like figure out your own way.
Yeah. But you learn to deal with it. You've got to be adaptable. You've got to have the adaptability because stuff might not always go the way you want it. You might have to do a presentation and your screen's not working, your PowerPoint's not working, or your laptop freezes. You've got to be able to
navigate in situations like that.
Exactly. And it's in hindsight, it's something we've learned a lot from Paris, from the pool in Paris. In the moment, it wasn't very nice. We were all very angry and annoyed that it was like that. But in hindsight, looking back on it, we think, it is what it is.
It's a bit corny, but the Bruce Lee quote, "Be like water, my friend." I guess you had to adapt.
Exactly. You deal with it and you make the best of the situation.
Yeah.
So it's something that I'll take with me.
How do you look back on Paris?
It's with mixed feelings. There was some possibly miscommunication, vriendjespolitiek within the swimming federation, where I didn't get to swim all the events I was promised I would.
Okay.
It's also had consequences for me financially, where I don't get any financial support now. So with respect to that, it's a very sour feeling, a very incomplete feeling. As soon as I qualified in Amersfoort, I had the idea, okay, I'm swimming 2 events, maybe 3 events in Paris, but at least a minimum of 2, because that's what I was promised by the coaches.
Because do the coaches decide to pick like who swims what when you have that limit?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So obviously there was the one boy going. He was who qualified in April with a relay qualifying time. He had to start according to the rules of the Olympic Federation. So he had to start, but if they made the final, then you obviously put in the quickest swimmer.
You'd say so.
You'd think so, yeah. And that's also what was said by the head of the relay teams, the one who was making the decisions. At the end of the day, that's not what happened. They chose for the other guy to swim the final because he had more experience. He was 5-6 years older than me. So yeah, he did have more experience. He wasn't quicker, but it is what it is. And yeah, if it was also coincidentally his coach who was making the decisions for who gets to swim in the relay, his coach of 12 years. So, you can say what you want, you can think what you want. But you couldn't do anything about it. The decisions have been made. Me, my team, my friends, family, even other people in Dutch swimming don't agree with the decision, thinks it was the incorrect decision, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
It was an annoying decision for a few days, and it has consequences on this whole year for me. But you overcome it.
Yeah.
And,
I think as you said, like it's about the journey, not destination, and like all the lessons you've learned, like from getting here, like, and you're so young still.
Yeah.
Like you're gonna have to make it happen in LA.
Yeah.
If you're really that good, then you will show up again.
Exactly.
And then that I don't want to hear that experience bullshit from them again. Like it's like, no, now we have a good few years in the pocket.
Exactly.
Like there's no way like you're not doing that race and all the other races that you want to qualify for.
Exactly. No, yeah, it's mixed feelings looking back on Paris. Sad I didn't get to swim what I wanted or what I was promised to. But I got a taste of the Olympics, of what it is, what it means to be there, what it means to be an Olympian and what you stand for. And now I want more, We're going to work towards LA. Now I've got 4 years to focus on it, to really work towards it instead of, just 1 year like I had this year. So,
more like a few months, right? Like
basically 8 months or something. So, 4 years, we're going to work towards it. And in LA, I'm going to be the man there. I'm going to go for the medals, go for more events, not just 100 freestyle, maybe other ones, who knows?
Yeah.
We see where the road takes.
Is there like a maximum of race you can qualify for as a swimmer?
No, you can do everything.
See you at every race.
Just as much as I can. No, but I got a taste of it. Now I want more. So we'll work towards Los Angeles. Hopefully it'll be better there.
You have a beautiful tattoo on your right arm.
Yeah.
Thankfully, you have a second arm. So on the second one, we'll have the rings with the medal as well.
Maybe I'll have to color these in, Who knows? The tattoo, it's something that all Olympians have, or most Olympians, Some don't have it for religious reasons, some don't like it. But no, it really stands for the journey that you've been through. You started off saying about experience and how long it takes to train and work towards something. There was a study done that it takes approximately 15 years to reach the Olympic Games, 15 years of training to get to the Olympics.
Consistent training we're talking about, right? It's not like on and off.
Exactly. 15 years of investment into your sport. And I think that's a bit what this tattoo means for me. All of the hardships, all the ups and downs, all the investment, the sacrifices I've had to make. If it's a reminder to me of what I've been through, what I stand for, and what I've been able to achieve. Every time I see it, I think, I was able to do that. And that's why I also have it in such a prominent place on my forearm. Every time I'm writing, every time I'm doing something with my hand, because I'm right-handed, I get reminded.
Every stroke.
Every stroke, every So that's really what it stands for me. Some people just have it because they think it looks cool. I mean, I think it looks cool as well.
It does.
But it also has a deeper meaning for me.
Sean, if I can give you advice, I think you have to be more vocal. Like for me, like I went into this podcast. I have a whole question list with like a bunch of questions. I didn't look at it for a second because your story is so engaging. Like you have something so valuable that a lot of people can learn from and a lot of people could benefit from. I think it's so valuable for people to hear this, from like all the hardship that you had when you were young to like doing something, all odds were against you, still make it happen. Then you get there, like it's so in all walks of life. Anyone listening to this, like maybe one of like the better podcasts that I've made a lot, but like it's up there, like
Thanks.
It's so beautiful to talk to someone. I think it's probably one of the longest one as well. You can produce here says yes. Like it's so cool. And like I know like nothing about swimming. I trained, I started like doing like the breaststroke like 1 year ago because I was like, I'm gonna do Ironman.
You can still do it.
Yeah.
I can train you if you want.
Oh, I'm gonna take you up on that. Yeah, like, but the lessons are universal, and it's so valuable. And I think also on your social media and whatnot, like you have to put your story out there. I'm happy we're doing it with this podcast, but you're gonna have to like keep pushing it because also your journey, like document it, like you have like it's there. Like you're gonna go to LA. Like there's no secret about it. If you train, you will, because you did it in this like all these shitty circumstances.
Yeah.
So there's no way it won't happen when you're not studying. When you hopefully you'll have the funds to like do everything right.
Exactly.
You won't have to like work at Albertine like making broodjes and then having to use that money to take the train. Like hopefully all that won't be an issue anymore. Full like focus on the recovery. You're gonna have the best steroid gun, massage, whatever. Like you need to do that.
Yeah.
You should document it, because when you're gonna look back and your children will look back and they're gonna see that, like it's so valuable.
Yeah.
I really think, and we'll happily help you with that as well. If we can like just like training here, training there, road to LA, like. Yeah, beautiful.
That would be great. Yeah, because I've noticed it as well. My social media, it's you basically only see the highs. Yeah, you don't see the lows. You don't see the whole journey. Maybe that's something useful or something beneficial for others as well to see that it's not all roses and daisies, but there's also there's lots of difficulties behind it all. There's lots of sadness, lots of blood, sweat, tears, literally and figuratively. Yeah. And maybe it's something that I'll have to. If
you're not doing it for yourself, do it for that one boy that's watching.
Exactly.
In like North Africa, and he's like, I want to become a swimmer. Like he has to hear the story. Like I think you can impact a lot of people with what you've done and what you will do, and you're still at the beginning of the career. Like you didn't even start. This was just a warming up. Yeah. And now it's going to start. Yeah. Like what is the average age of like swimmers that are standing like at the finals for the like the things you're doing?
Around between 24 and like 28 or something. Okay. So in
prime time's still coming, man.
In LA, I'll be 26, so that's perfect. Yeah. So there's so much potential, and just gotta work for it and get it out.
I'll be there.
I'll hold you to that.
Yeah, 100%.
No, but it's interesting what you said about, inspiring like the little kid. We had national championships the last few days. They were for masters. The masters are the swimmers who don't swim professionally. Okay. So also old, so their age categories, there are some people who are 88 there who are swimming. And there's one man, he's in his late 60s, early 70s, and there are some times that he swims that I think that is crazy, that times that I would struggle. He does other distances, but times that I would really have to do my best for to swim them. And this man, he's a grandpa. He's gone through his whole life already, and he's still doing this. So I sent him a message. I said, it's really inspiring what you're doing, and I really love watching you race. And it's funny, he responded. He said, the feeling's mutual, because you're so young and you're doing these things and you're performing and you're overcoming difficulties, and you've got your own difficulties. Maybe his is his age, mine is also maybe my age, that I'm too young, I'm not mature enough to do certain things. Who knows? But that we are both in awe of each other. I think that was very special for me to be able to hear that from him. The younger swimmers, they look up to you because you can swim fast, but the older swimmers, they look up to you because, maybe not per se because you swim fast, but because they know how it is
everything around it,
go through life.
Yeah.
And then still be able to achieve it. So I think that was beautiful, and it was touching to hear that from him.
You're gonna hear that a lot more in all different ways and shapes. You can hear it, I'm sure. Just make sure to put it out there. Like people have to know what you're doing and how you will do it. And I think you have a beautiful like pinpoint on the horizon of like what can happen, and you're gonna have to do it. Yeah. Sean, in the Success Show, we always ask one last question, and that is, what does success mean to you, or what will it look like? What is that for you?
Success, that's a difficult question. Swimming success, I always thought just participating at the Olympics is success. That was my end goal. Now I've been to the Olympics and I think maybe a final, maybe that'll be, swimming success. I think success is relative. If you've got a goal to work towards, once you reach that goal, that you can keep working towards something else. Success isn't a set point in the future or a set something. It's ever changing, and it's something that you've always got to, something you can always work on and always keep on developing on, and always keep once you reach your goal, once you reach what you think is success, there can be another form of success.
Yeah, like as you said, like it was participating and now it will be something else.
Exactly.
I think like what you're it's growth.
Yeah.
Right? There's like this ever changing goals and continuing to set those goals for yourself.
Maturing as a person, maturing in life, in society, in your sport, every stage of life has a different definition of success, I think. Once I think successful in a business, once I, reach a certain position, maybe once I'm there, I think, well, now success for me would be retiring at the age of 50, like my father did, or starting your own business, which will then become successful. And then you have another skewed view of what success is.
Yeah.
It's very, it's not set in stone. That's what I think.
Beautiful. Sean, we hope to see you in LA. No, we will see you in LA. I will be there personally. We'll do a podcast there, and we'll after the gold medal around your neck, and it will be a beautiful podcast.
Awesome.
I'm going to see what's next. Please document your journey because it's going to be special. I think a lot of people will learn from it, and keep on doing what you're doing.
Oh, well, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Pleasure.